Okay, so good morning, everyone. Many thanks for joining us again today in one of JCD training sessions. So I'm just moving a few things around on my desktop. We've got messages popping up over there as well. So yeah, Felicity, you can continue allowing people to enter. That'd be good. I can stop doing that now. So yes, thank you very much for coming along today. Great that so many have shown an interest in this session. As you know, we'll be talking about Power BI today. I'm just giving a bit of a preamble prior to handing across to my colleague Carrie, who will be doing the actual demonstration, all the hard work. For those of you that have been to these sessions before, you'll know myself. I'm Phil. I'm the look after the sales and marketing side of things. And Carrie is one of our client success managers looking after the claims management system. Okay, so we are recording this, so we'll make that available to you in the future, should you wish to review this information. Just going to turn my camera off. Okay. And if you have any questions, then either put it in the chat and we'll try to answer it when there's an appropriate moment within the presentation, or we'll cover them off at the end of this morning's session. But we'll try, as I said, we'll try to make sure we cover off all those questions. Okay, so let's quickly run through these slides. So there are already a number of different mechanisms by which you can produce reports in the LACS system, which many of your users will be used to using. So they're the standard reports you have within the system that are kind of all insurance related, so fund status, summary, detailed information, different classes of business type of reports. These are all produced in Excel. They're kind of summarized, pre-summarized reports in Excel. There's also the in-system views, so the grid views, all of which can be pushed out into Excel. So you can start to do other forms of analysis within the Excel environment. Often what we find is when you're looking to disseminate information across the wider business, those people don't want to or have access to the operational system. So at the moment we can use Excel. However, what Power BI provides is a way to disseminate this information in a more powerful report or dashboard with tables and graphs, and making it very interactive for people to look at that information. And it's much more useful for senior and middle management when they're trying to understand particular patterns and movements and analyze the information that you're sharing. So we provide an API, which is an application programming interface, if you want to know what it stands for. And that is the middleman, essentially, between the LACS system and the business intelligence software that you're using. We're going to be showing you Power BI today. There are, of course, other ones. There's the G Suite in Google. Some of you may have SAP or Oracle. They're all business intelligence softwares, but they allow you to bring in data from lots of other operational systems and, as I said, produce these reports and dashboards. But we're, as I said, focusing on Power BI this morning. There are different flavors of Power BI depending upon what you need and what you want to do and how you wish to distribute and share this information. It isn't always entirely obvious from Microsoft website exactly what you need. However, we have understood from some of our clients that most public sector organizations will already have within their Microsoft licensing the framework to disseminate and distribute these Power BI reports within the business. But you'll still need something to develop those reports, and that's the Power BI desktop application, which is what Carrie's going to be using this morning. You then have a mechanism to deploy that data. That's the online platform. It can be a kind of internal service, or it can be something using called Fabric, which is a kind of a broader online cloud kind of environment. And you can also push it out to mobile devices as well. I guess it depends upon your audience, what kind of information you're trying to share. The desktop version is free, but you can't share the reports that you've produced unless someone else also has a paid for license. So, for example, Carrie can produce a report and she can share it with me if I've got a Power BI Pro license at £10 a month, which I have, or a Power BI Premium user. So, or you've got that, broader cloud distribution environment. But on the website, there's more information about those different types of solution. As a commercial entity, we have to buy those licenses, so it can be quite expensive if you want to disseminate it across the organization. I think about £3,500 a year is kind of an entry level point, but just depending upon the processing and the CPUs that you require in terms of, as I said, pushing that information out. So the key benefits of Power BI are essentially that, as I said, you produce nice, sophisticated, interactive reports that can be provided across the organization. That means that whenever they run that report, it can be looking at either, the most recent snapshot of data, or it can be live information. Most people choose to have it as a snapshot, so it's produced every month, for example. Once that's done, it can be shared via Teams, for example, or can it be embedded within PowerPoint presentations, which again is a great way of illustrating some of this stuff to the organization. It can also incorporate elements of AI. So it integrates with Copilot, the Microsoft tool, which can then give you advice on some elements of the use of the system, what kind of graphs to use, it'll give you advice on the kind of how to transform, etc., the data ready for different types of analysis and different types of reporting. You can also use scheduling tools, which will then allow you to push out and run that report at particular points in time. So every quarter, you could have it being scheduled to run the report on that new fresh data, and then email it out to the relevant audience within your business. This is a kind of a view of the kind of pictorial view of the representation of how that would operate. So you got your data on the left-hand side, is then brought into the Power BI desktop. So the LACS data is brought into Power BI. It's within that you then take time to transform the information or the data, cleanse it, get it ready, basically preparing it to then be used within a report, and then you push it out within the BI service that I mentioned previously. It is a very powerful tool. It offers a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can articulate the data, the information, how you share that, what it looks like, what graphs, what tables, but it does require you to have a very good understanding of your data, and also what you're trying to what information you're trying to provide to people. Some of our clients, when they're looking to use Power BI, they spend some time talking to the relevant users of the potential report, so they understand what people want to see. That would then inform on, what is the best choice of table, what is the best choice of graph, what's going to answer the questions that people are asking of you from that data. There's lots of information, as I mentioned, on the web about the BI tool itself, and there are also lots of guidance advices on YouTube. There are courses that you can go on. These are just some of these examples here. We can share my slides at the end. So let Fee know if you want to have a look at these again. We can make these available to you. Okay, so that's enough from me. I'm going to hand across now to Carrie to actually take you through the system itself. Carrie? And you're on mute, Carrie?
I
Okay,
am, yeah. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's okay this morning. Thank you, Phil, for your wonderful introduction. Yes, so this morning I'm going to talk to you about all things Power BI. What I would like to focus on today, I'm going to show you kind of like a finished product of what you can see in front of you. And then I'm going to talk through the workings of how we get to that. So it kind of hopefully gives you all a bit more of an understanding of how it works. I appreciate there'll be some people watching that know how it works, but there might be some that this is the first time that you're seeing it. So it's kind of like a little bit of a step-by-step guide of how we get from A to B. So I'm looking here, this is a published report that I've created, and I've published this into Power BI. As Phil explained, there are different variants of how you might do this. So I have the web version, and I have published this here. And this could be something that I could share internally with my team and give them permissions to look at it and download it if they wanted to use. So if I just work through what we're seeing here, this is my overview page. And in here, I've created sort of like a little bit of a contents page, so to speak. So if I was to click on the open claims, that's taken me down into my open claims page. I can't hear the oohs and ahs because you're all muted, but I would imagine there are some there. And if I go back to my overview, we can click into perhaps causes. So it just takes you through the different pages. There are one of the things I'll talk about today, that this is just a very sort of rough mock-up of what you could have. There are lots of different visualizations and tools that you can use within Power BI. So you might want to have back and forth pages, arrows. You might want to have lots of different ways that you can navigate between the pages. And again, that's sort of an internal discussion that you would have, that you would present to the people that create your reports for you, and probably more of a back and forth conversation of, does this look right? Does that look right? A good conversation to be had. So if I just work through what we're seeing here, so we've had the overview page. I've got the template page here, which I'll explain more about in a moment when we actually go into the desktop version of the application. We've got open claims here. As a report, I'm looking at this page, I see that it's about my open claims information, and we've got a set of criteria that we can select from down the left-hand side. We call these slices, and we can create these slices to be whatever we want them to be, really. So I've got my status dates, and I've got a range that I can move in between. So if we see that, we can see that that's reflecting the information that we're seeing over here on the page. So we can see that between these dates, there are 319 claims. Perhaps if I wanted to be a bit more selective of which year I'm looking at, let's go for 2018. That's moved us down to 24 claims that we're seeing. And maybe if I want to look at, say, Q4, let's see what we've got here. We've got 4 claim references. And we can see in our different charts here that that's letting us know the department. So we can see that administrative services is giving us a count of 1. Well, they're all counts of 1, but just hovering over can give you the information that you need to see. If I'm perhaps to click into the department name, that gives us more information again here in a visual way. Okay, if I just turn these off, I'll put my dates back there. But we have some other slices here. So if we were to look at class of business, perhaps if we want to look at public liability, and then cause description, go for accidental damage. So it's just showing you the different ways that you can view your data. If I click down onto the causes table, I've got a different layout here. And we can see that perhaps if I want to look at class of business, let's do public liability again, and we'll do the same cause, accidental damage. You can see that that's changing the information that we're seeing. If I go back to select all, on this table here, if I hover over one of these at random, we can see that the injury is broken, fractured upper limb, and the cause is neglect of duty. So it's just giving you information on the screen there. Down to claims
Sorry,
by
Carrie.
area. Yes.
Sorry, just a question. Those hover overs, I meant to ask before. Are they automatic? You don't need to.
But you waited till now.
Yeah, sorry, I've been thinking about it. I never actually asked. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, you can change them to be what you want them to be. You might not want to have them on. You can turn them off. You can have them what you want to be. Yes, most of it's all completely manipulatable to be what you want it to be.
Manipulatable. Good.
Yes, I'm not sure if that's a word, but it is now. Okay, so down to claims by area. This is quite a nice one. We like this one. So we've used a different visual here, which I'll show you again. I'll show you more about in the desktop version of it. But perhaps if we were to look at, let's go with class of business again. We'll do public liability. Let's keep it consistent, and we'll go for accidental damage. Lovely. So that's showing us that we've got a cluster of claims here outside the Birmingham area. And that could be something that you drill down on. So it might be that highways might need to go and investigate a certain area. It might be that there needs to be more signage on the road. It may be that perhaps there's a sharp corner and it gets damaged by lorries. Just making things up now. But it could be that highlights an area that needs to be investigated further.
Sorry, me again, Carrie. Sorry. I mean, it's worth. The reason I'm mentioning this is it cropped up in a conversation with one of our clients recently, where I was showing the output that you produced. They like the idea of using the kind of the geographic sort of mapping for hotspots and stuff, but they weren't using the lookup address functionality in the LACS system. Therefore, because they weren't using that, it wasn't giving locations and northings and eastings, which meant it couldn't then be plotted. So that's kind of key for this kind of stuff. You have to be using the address lookups in order to give it that geocoded reference. I thought I'd share that.
That's okay. And then if we just look at overall claims here, that's another visual that we have here. I quite like a pie chart, but my new favourite is a donut chart. If I'm to click on, let's look at the department name of cleansing, you can see that that's drilling down more information into these other visualizations that we have here. This one here, I've got the payments made as well. So this is just a brief overview of what you could have. I've got another page here called Fish Tank, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to dangle a carrot and not tell you too much about that until the end, and then there'll be some confetti that comes down the screen and there'll be lots of E's and R's. Right, so this is what you could have. And again, obviously you'll be talking internally and perhaps to us about how you want this to look and feel. So if I now take you into the into Power BI, so we're going from this lovely page here, we'll go into Excel. So this is the where we would start. We'd start our Power BI API journey. As Phil mentioned, it's a one-way integration. So we pull data from LACS into Power BI. So it's very much a one-way street here. And the API is pulling data into the data model. And using this, we can analyze, or you can analyze and visualize key insights within your organization to help you along your reporting journey. Keep saying that word. Right, so today I'm just going to focus on the claims table for this session. If you are to use the API tool, you can have access to the policies, motor, property and contents, if you have those as well. But just for ease today, I'm just going to focus on the claims table. With LACS, with the extract, this essentially is what you see. So within the claims field, we have across the top here, we have all of our column headers, and there are many of them. And we have our information below. With some of you, you may use Power BI for other applications as well. And it may be that when you get the information in, there's a certain element of changes that you need to make. So it may be that the headers don't necessarily make sense. They might be numbered or in that way, and they don't make sense to what you're going to be using later on in the tool. With LACS, it's all pretty much as it should be. So there isn't really a huge amount for me to change. So we can see here that if we hover on claim reference, that's being reflective here of claim reference that we'll see when I take you into the actual visualizations of things. So it's all sort of set up pretty much as you need it to be. So there's not a huge amount to do there, which is good. So I'm going to take you away from Excel now, because just life is better when we're away from Excel. Okay. So this is where we can build our report. So it's gone straight into the overview screen here. And if I just click onto our contents that I showed you earlier, we can see items change over here. So our data, we're still looking at the claims data here, and I've created a table here, essentially like a button that we can add our pages into. So that's our home page. I'm going to move on to the template, which I said I was going to talk about earlier. Well, I'm going to talk about them all again. In here, it might be that you set up perhaps just a blank page that you might have your corporate colours. So it might be that your background needs to be a certain colour. I've put my title here top left, and I've put the JCAD logo top right. I've also added in a couple of buttons that you might want to use going forward. So what it is essentially with your template, you can then duplicate that, and you've got your sort of basis set ready for the next one. So if I just right click and duplicate, I'll call that Thursday. That's all I'm going to tell you about the template screen at the moment, but you can see obviously it's a duplicate of that. So if you move into our open claims page, so I've set up my slices down here. You can see that they've got a dark blue background there in square format, and I've worked through my visualizations here. So if I click on the department name, for example, we can see that over here, the visualization I'm using is a donut chart. Perhaps if I didn't like that one, I wanted it to look slightly different, perhaps I'll go to a funnel. That changes my information for me. Let's do a stacked bar chart. So you can kind of manipulate these to be how you want to see them. I'll go back to my donut as it's my favorite. And as you saw earlier in the actual published report, selecting different items here will change the data that you see. How we got this information here, we'll still say on the department name. Over on the right-hand side, we've got our data, and that's what we've pulled in from LACS. So we can see here that I'm looking at the department name and values of the department. So that's just showing you how we're getting gathering the information over here. If I look at the one below, we've got payments by cause, and so we've got the legend here as cause, and we've got the values as payments. So it's using the information here. If we drag them over into here, it's reflective. So one of the kind of things that your team or yourself will be doing is learning how you pull these in and change them around to show you the information that you want to see. Move on to the causes. So I've got my slices here across the top. Thought I'd change it up a little bit. And we've got our stacked bar chart here, and we've also got a line graph here. So if I click on perhaps this one, this is a head injury, and the cause is a trip in a car park. And this is reflective over here on this screen for you too. Okay, claims by area. As Phil said, on here, I have used, you can see down on the left-hand side, I've used the location of the postcode, but I've also got the latitude in there too. So that's how we can use that information. And this is using a dot chart map. And we've got all of our slices down here on the left-hand side. So I've started to think that maybe I quite like my slices being down on the left-hand side. And it might be that going forward, we decide that as an organisation, that's how we would always we always want our slices to be consistently on the left. So now I think I want to change my template. So if I go into view, and then if I go over to my sync slices option, if I click on the top one, the top left, year, this opens up this section for us. So I want to add in the year slicer into my template. So I'm going to add it here. It automatically wants to sync my slices, which I don't want it to do. I want it to be just only on that page that what I'm selecting. So I'm going to turn that off, and it's just going to be visible on my template page. I'm also going to add it to my Thursday page as well. And then I'll do the same for quarter. I'm not going to add the quarter onto my Thursday page. I'm only interested in the year for that one. And my status, I'll add that in too. And I'll just do the department name as well. I won't go through them all, as I appreciate you've all got jobs to do. Okay, right, so if I now go to my template page, you can see that those are there for us. So if I perhaps wanted to create another new page, duplicate that, and we'll call that thinking off the top of my head. Many of you have had training sessions with me. You know how great I am at that. We'll just call that webinar. Okay, lovely. So, and then we'll have a look on our Thursday page, and that didn't sync over the quarter. I didn't want it to. Lovely. And then if I now go into my overall claims, which we looked at briefly earlier, this is showing us, perhaps let's look at cause. This is showing us, we've got the cause here, and we're using with the class of business. So if I'm to hover perhaps over this nice pink one, it's uncoded, it's gone to purple, we can see that that's reversing is the cause, and we can see here the monetary values that are associated with that, and it's giving us these lovely visualizations again. Now, I'm going to go back to my overview page, and I can see I've got my original contents here, but I haven't got my Thursday and webinar pages in here, so I'd like to add those in. So if I go back to home and I click on my table here, if I now go to the format navigator and I go to pages and to show, so these are automatically turned off. I want to turn them on here, but they're still not showing. So if I go to my grid layout and I'm going to up my raise to 4, that now adds those in there for me, and I can click on them. They take me to my pages. So just a few, ideas that you might think, oh, I love that, or not bothered about that. But yes, there's lots of tips that you can do in Power BI, and it is very much a learning process, and learning along the way of the things that you like and you don't like. The other thing before I get onto the fish tank, because I'm really building it up, the other thing I was going to talk about today was if you were to use the API tool and you were to look at the claims policy and the asset tables that you might have, what happens within that is that you can create relationships between those tables. So you decide how the information will flow between those tables. So this is my favorite bit. So you can create relationships. You can maintain them to how you want them to be, and you can change them. And then if you decide that it's not working out, you can end them. So you can change those to how you want them to be relationship wise throughout the tables, which is a really good tool. Okay, I shall now take you onto I'll go back to the web version. Okay, and let's go and have a look at our fish tank. Okay, the confetti hasn't worked. But this is just to show you, it's a little bit silly, but it's just to show you that Power BI doesn't have to be lots of charts and very, very serious reporting. It can have a little bit of fun to it. Purely from a sort of, we've all been in meetings where we've sort of sat there and Wondered when it was going to end. But we can use different visualizations to generate engagement through creative content. So this is one that I've rather enjoyed using. So if I just hover over this shark, we can see that he's representing year 2016 and that there are 84 claims. If we hover over this one down here, we've got the policy year of 2014, and there were 48 claims within that policy year. So if I now click on that one, it's reflective over here of the information. So you can see it's a count of 48, and it's all motor vehicle. But let's go for this one here. And he's 2022, and there are 84 claims, and we've got a breakdown here of what those claims are with the class of business description. And that's essentially me, I think. So yeah, just a very sort of brief overview of what Power BI is and kind of roughly how it works. Over to you, Phil, if there's any questions.
Yeah, we've had loads of questions actually as we've been going
Good.
through that myself and Felicity are rapidly responding to as you talk. So I'm going to stop writing because I can't talk and write at the same time.
Okay.
One question raised was, do you have to have Power BI to work with LACS 6? And the answer to that is no. This is purely an optional tool in the API, which allows you to pull data from LACS into another application. That's the additional tool that we're offering. The Power BI is something that makes use of that LACS data that you pulled via the API in order to produce these kind of more sophisticated, well, looking at the fish chart, I say sophisticated, but these more kind of sophisticated, interactive kind of reports. So you don't have to have it, but as I said, it's just really a way of showing you what can be achieved through these extra reporting tools, such as Power BI. We can provide some information to you about a few of our clients, I think, who are starting the process of using Power BI, but obviously we need to check with those that they're happy to do so. I don't want to have them inundated with sort of 70 or 80 people go, oh, can we have your report, please, or whatever. But I'm sure we can put you in contact, those that are interested, with a couple of users to give some actually some further details. What else? Someone asked about hang on. Yeah, someone said here about, what do you mean by change relationships between policies and claims? At some point you might have mentioned change relationships. Does that mean anything to you at the moment? Gary?
Sorry, can you say that again?
What do you mean by change relationships between policies?
Yes. So I can't show you at the moment because I haven't got the other tables. So in here, this is where the relationships can be created. So if we were to have, where we've got the claim table here, if we were to have the policies, if you were to have the motor, property and contents pages here too, you can set up specific links between those tables, and with specific ways in which they kind of communicate with each other. So it may be that you're looking to, with the claim and policy tables, it might be have a specific kind of set of information that you want to work between them. So you can create how they work together. That makes sense.
Yeah, Crystal. I think
good.
I think we really highlighted the fact that Power BI is I think I said in my preamble, quite a sophisticated bit of software. It does a lot. It has some idiosyncrasies, like any software, apart from LACS, which obviously is very obvious and straightforward. But it does require you to have a good understanding of the data, so the LACS data, and again, a good understanding of what people want to see from that data in terms of when you're disseminating it, it needs to answer particular questions. How you get to that point is by talking to people about what information they want to use. But the use of the kind of Excel tool within Power BI requires training in order to transform the data, get it ready for analysis, and then you need to have again a good understanding of what charts to use with what kind of data. So yeah, I mean, Carrie, you've probably spent how long do you think you spent getting to this stage in terms of time?
Oh, I don't know. Well, we obviously we had the sort of training and all of that
You
kind of
did?
thing, so did quite a lot with that, and then I don't know. I kind of described it to some friends about because they still don't believe that I'm in IT. But I've kind of described it in when you're learning to drive and when you first start, you think this doesn't make any sense to me. How
Yeah,
I'm meant to put my foot on this and do this at the same time, and my hand's meant to be here, and my other hand's meant to be here, and I'm meant to be looking in there. And it felt a bit like that in that after sort of playing around with it, and then that's basically what I have been doing is dragging things here that doesn't work, so I drag something else there, and it does then start to click into place, and you think, oh, hang on, I can move from first to second gear now without stalling, and that kind of thing. So I can't give you I don't know how long it's taken, but it has just taken time of playing
yeah,
around with it and thinking, oh, hang on, what do I want to report on, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense.
yeah.
And it does sort of slowly start to click into place, and you think, yes, I
I mean,
get it now.
originally, you and a couple of colleagues had what, 2 days training,
3 days, I think it was.
3 days
Yeah,
training,
yeah,
and then which gave you the basics, and
yeah,
then it's, as you say, it's been a question of playing with the system over the
yeah,
course of the last few months. So you probably
yeah,
spent probably a week, haven't you, in total
yeah,
playing with it over those months.
yeah. And
So
I think as
yeah,
well, the I mean, not everyone needs to know it, but obviously with the training, you're using the training provider's information. Whereas I think obviously going straight into Power BI within your organization, you've got your data, so it makes more sense. And how you log your claims and how you report on them will be different for every organization. So using your data and knowing what you want to report on is really important to be able to kind of, I guess, you map it out of what you want to see um, and go from there, start from there.
yeah, yeah, brilliant stuff. Okay, thanks, Carrie. I think that was really
So,
useful. I always learn a little bit when you show me these things, so thank you for that.
no
Um,
trouble.
I think we've covered off most of the questions there, which is good. Um, as I mentioned in the preamble, we will be sending the recording or making a recording available to you, and also my slides, if you want those. If you've got further questions, then please get in contact with myself or Felicity or Carrie, or just the support team, and we'll try to assist. Just leaves me to say thank you ever so much for coming along today, everyone. It's Thursday, isn't it? So near the weekend. So yeah, enjoy the upcoming weekend. Hope the weather stays nice. Well, actually, stays nice, gets nice. It's pretty horrible at the moment.
Yes.
Yes, it's absolutely tipping it down. So yeah, thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.